This is the AR-180. It was manufactured by Armalite, and it is the brainchild of Eugene Stoner, the father of the AR-15 M16 series of rifles. Now, this was manufactured as an alternative, a lower cost alternative to the AR-15 M16. And while the AR-15 M16 arguably influenced more weapons designs over the years, this rifle has also heavily influenced other rifle designs over the years, just not quite to the level of the AR-15 M16. And that's what I want to talk about in today's video. Have a couple of rifles out here I think you're going to find to be very, very interesting. And one of them is really weird. In 1978, a gentleman by the name of Charles St. George would start work on a rifle for the Australian military to adopt or replace the L1A1 service rifles. And this is the rifle he came up with, and this is called the Leader rifle. This is the T2 Mk5, and this is a semi-automatic version that was imported for a short time in the 1980s into the United States. This rifle borrows very heavily from the AR-180 or AR-18, the full auto counterpart, in its basic operation. They made one major change to it though, and that's the design of the bolt head itself. Plus there's some other changes as well that make this kind of its own unique rifle. One of those things is it uses standard Stanag magazines, but its charging handle is up here forward on the rifle. Magazine release, and then your fire control right here where you would expect it to be. This rifle was kind of a flop, and we did a video on this rifle sometime back about a year ago, and the comment section of other owners of these rifles and of some Australians was pretty negative about the gun in general, saying that it was mostly a piece of junk. Now, this one hasn't been fired a whole lot. It's been in my collection for a while, and that's why it looks so brand new. And I've never had any problems with it, but then again, I haven't put 1,000 rounds through it. Doesn't lock open on the last shot fired.
Over the years, you guys have seen me use a lot of primary arms optics, everything from red dot sights to magnified optics. And why do I do that? Well, over the years, they've offered very good products for a very fair price. They have fast shipping, outstanding customer support, and that's why you've seen me using those products for so many years. If you guys would like to pick up a magnified optic like you see on this Daniel Defense Mark 12, you can pick up an optic like this one. Just put it in your cart over at pa.com or primaryarms.com. And if you use the code MAC at checkout, MAC at checkout, you'll get a free scope mount with your optic, and that goes for any Primary Arms branded optic. If you pick up an optic that has an integrated mount, use that code MAC at checkout, and you'll get a free Kill Flash ARD for that optic. So please swing by and check out primaryarms.com.
So the AR-180 was the impetus, I believe, for the Australian Leader rifle, and then Masterpiece Arms here in the United States took a look at the Australian Leader and decided to make a version of it themselves. Now, when we take a closer look at this rifle side by side with the Australian Leader, you're going to see that the profile of the weapon is very much the same, and the internals are going to be very much the same. Where things get different is out here with the handguard, and a little bit difference in terms of the gas piston system that runs the gun. You'll notice its charging handle is over here on the left-hand side. The Leader had its charging handle up here. Charging handle's on the left-hand side. You'll notice I can push it in, and that is a forward assist because this is a non-reciprocating charging handle. Fires 5.56, it's called the MPAR. It's no longer in production. Masterpiece Arms has moved on to chassis rifles and still makes their MAC-10 clones. Charge the weapon up, and oh, I should also mention it has this really loose-fitting side-folding stock. All right, here we go. Let's do a little shooting with her. The recoil impulse is a little bit muted as compared to the Leader. That's because this thing is a hoss. This huge aluminum rail out here really kind of makes the gun overweight, but in the early 2000s, this was kind of a thing. Everybody wanted massive handguards for some reason. Let's head into the shooting shack and take the guns apart and show you why I say this is USA-made version of the Australian Leader. First of all, I'd like to thank our friends over at Federal for helping to make today's video possible. They supply the ammunition to the channel free of charge. Really good stuff. Been shooting it ever since I was a kid. So this is the AR-18 or AR-180. I always call it by its military designation. The 18 is the full auto version. Quickly take this gun apart. Plenty of videos out there about the details of this particular firearm. I just want to get to the point of the basic operating mechanism of the gun and what it looks like on the inside, and taking it apart, how similar that is to the other rifles I want to show you today, in particular the Masterpiece Arms gun, because we haven't talked about it before here on the channel. So to make the weapon safe, first take the magazine out, check the chamber, make sure she's empty. Back here you have a little button that you push forward, but it's being blocked by the protective ears of the rear sight. So there's a little plunger by my index finger here. You have to push that plunger in, and then you can push the takedown lever in between the ears of the rear sight, which then allows the gun to hinge open. It has 2 guide rod and recoil springs, and that's to stabilize the bolt during recoil. Oftentimes you'll see a main recoil spring and a guide rod. You'll see that in like the X95 and some other rifles we featured here on the channel. Those additional rods will help to stabilize that bolt to keep it from torquing, which makes it more reliable in feeding. All right, so, and that's one of the nice design features of the AR-18. Take the bolt out, pull it to the rear, and this is one of the more distinctive features of the rifle that you'll see other companies using. So you have a bolt that's basically a square. This is where your recoil springs and guide rods go. And then you'll have an AR-15 M16 type bolt head with multi-lugs, and then it'll have a cam pin on the side. Okay, so that's the basic AR-18 design. Very robust, very simple, very reliable. This is the Australian Leader rifle. Again, we have an entire video about this rifle if you'd like to learn more about it. It's a very interesting rifle indeed. So what I want to talk about is a field disassembly, and then I want to take a look on the inside of the gun and show you just how similar it is in concept, at least, to the AR-18. Now, the AR-18 uses a short stroke gas piston. This also uses a short stroke gas piston. When you want to take the gun apart, take the magazine out, inspect the chamber. Both rifles, the AR-18 and the Leader, make extensive use of stampings for the upper and lower receivers. All right, so to take it apart, check the chamber, it's empty. Back here we have a push button, just like on the AR-18. However, there's no safety to keep it from moving back and forth during recoil, which didn't appear to be a problem with the Leader rifle. So you're just going to push forward on this, and then the rifle will hinge open. Once you do that, you can pull back on the charging handle, and look what comes out. Does that not look like an AR-18? It has the cam pin over here. It's a square block, 2 guide rods, recoil spring. But what really sets the Leader apart is its triangular bolt head. It has 3 locking lugs. Very simple to manufacture as compared to the AR-15. So, and it may be stronger, I don't know. The AR-15 has a very strong bolt. But anyway, so that's one of the major differences between the Leader and the AR-18 is that triangular bolt head. So as you can see, this gun doesn't have a buff or anything back here, so it could be fitted with the folding stock just as easily as the AR-18. Very, very interesting to say the least. And again, this gun, because it's so heavily based on the AR-18, I would say is an outstanding rifle. But then again, I've heard from folks in other countries that own them and shoot them that say that they're marginal at best. I really like mine. Okay, so now that we've taken a look at the Leader, let's take a look at that MPA rifle that they manufactured for a while, and I think you're going to agree, they literally cloned the Leader. So all 3 rifles have different methods for charging the gun. On the AR-180, you have a charging handle on the right-hand side. With the Australian Leader, you have a charging handle up here. And with the MPAR, you have the charging handle on the side of the receiver, much like an FN-FAL. As I mentioned, you have a little push button here that you can use as a forward assist, something the other rifles don't have, unless on the AR-18 you can pound on the charging handle that's directly interfacing with the bolt. All right, so how do you take this gun apart? Well, and I also want to talk about the gas system. But taking the gun apart, now look at this, guys. Look at the receivers. Stamped upper and lower, mag releases here, mag releases here, the ejection ports, and look at the shape of the magazine well flare. obviously, clearly, Masterpiece Arms was looking at the Australian Leader as a design inspiration for the MPAR. All right, so with that out of the way, before I do take it apart, let's talk about the gas system, because this is different from the other two rifles. Out here on this particular gun, you have an adjustable gas system. The gas system has dots telling you how much gas is being let into the gas system. It's also a short stroke gas piston gun. So you can adjust with the bullet tip how much gas you give the system. The other two guns, again, do not have that feature. To make sure this weapon is empty, I'm going to take the magazine out, pull the bolt to the rear, the chamber is empty. On top here, this is interesting, a non-captive pin. So this is your takedown button, okay? And it seems to have about the same amount of spring resistance as the Leader, but for some reason, MPA, it almost looks like an afterthought, drilled a hole through the rear pick rail here and put this pin in front of it that blocks it from moving forward. And the only reason I can see them doing that is because during recoil, this could probably go forward and the rifle would hinge open unexpectedly during firing. Because again, this totally looks like an afterthought. As a matter of fact, the hole is not even finished on the inside. So it's like they finished the entire gun, drilled the hole, stuck this non-captive pin in there, and called it good. So one difference there. So once you take that pin out, you have a button that's about the same size and shape as the Leader's. You just push that forward and it hinges open. All right, now one thing that this gun has in it that the Leader does not is a bolt hold open mechanism, which sets right here. All right, then you have pretty much a standard AR-15 fire control system inside there. When you pull the bolt and carrier out, what does that look like? Just for reference, I'm going to go ahead and take the Leader apart again really quick. Look at them, guys. Take a look at those bolt heads. Triangular bolt heads. The question is, Jason challenged me to do this live. This is a one taker. I'm going to take the Leader's bolt and carrier. I've never done this before. It fits. It doesn't look like it's locking up, so there might be some dimensional changes to the three-lug bolt. But that's pretty darn close. How funny is that? All right, so yeah, clearly MPA was trying to make their own Leader. Now, what's interesting is the guide rods and everything are captive on the Leader, unlike the AR-18, and the same is true with the MPA MPAR rifle. So that is absolutely cool, and that's what really endears me to this rifle. So if you guys are interested in picking up a Leader, see if you can find an MPAR out there used. They're kind of hard to find. I don't think they were all that popular. I would say the quality on them is good in the places that it needs to be. Like the bolt seems to be quality, the handguards are quality, gas regulator, all that stuff, standard AR-15 components, but there's some areas where it really could use some improvements. This stock is just flimsy at best. It just rattles around. It doesn't lock up very tight, but it does use an extension tube from an AR-15, so you can use regular AR-15 stocks on it. But this lock mechanism really could use some attention, but the gun's dead. I don't think it sold very well, and therefore I would imagine that's the way it went, why it went the way of the dodo bird. It's just unfortunate. Short stroke gas piston, all that good stuff. Shoots very nice and smooth. A very interesting gun to say the least, and one of those interesting collectibles out there. If you find one popping up somewhere and you know, it's not stupidly priced, which it shouldn't be because they're not very popular guns, maybe pick it up, shoot it. I think you'll enjoy it. It's definitely a very, very interesting piece of American manufacturing history. Overall, the controls on the gun are in familiar locations if you are into AR-15s, which most American shooters are. You have your magazine release right there where you would expect it to be, and then your fire controls are right where you would expect them to be. One of the interesting things about this gun is that it uses E-clips to hold the fire control pins in place, and you'll notice that one of E E-clips has gone missing. So I'll have to go find one and put that back on there. So it has some quirks to it. Another thing is even though it does have a bolt hold open on the last shot fired, there's no bolt release like on an AR-15. So you have to pull the charging handle to the rear to release the bolt to chamber a new round. Now it's interesting they put that forward assist on there. I could do without that. I would much prefer a folding charging handle because it just makes the profile of the weapon just awkward, having that big knob hanging off the side of the gun. It'd be interesting to see if they would ever bring back production of this, but somehow I think it's gone forever, which is a shame, but it's really hard to compete against the AR-15 in the US market with rifles like this. So this rifle would have debuted at SHOT Show in 2013 by Masterpiece Arms. It would have 2 generations of the gun that would ultimately evolve, and then it would go out of production, I don't know, a few years later. It's kind of sketchy, the dates at which they stopped production. I can't really find solid information on that. The Generation 1 guns, I believe, did not have a bolt hold open device like the original Leader. The Generation 2 guns would incorporate that bolt hold open device, but don't hold me to that. I also believe the 4-position gas regulator was a Gen 2 item. So the guns fairly quickly went from Generation 1 to Generation 2, and for whatever reason, they just didn't really catch on. The price of them back in 2013 was less than $1,000. They retailed, full retail was $959. If you find them out there today, it doesn't seem like people are fighting over them, trying to get their hands on one. You should still be able to pick one up for $1,000 or so, even though they're no longer available if you're interested in picking up an interesting piece of American manufacturing history in terms of small arms. Overall, what do I think of the gun? I'm not all that impressed with it. I mean, I think it's really, really cool that it's an American Leader. That part of it really intrigues me as a collector. But in general, it doesn't offer anything over a standard AR-15. If anything, it's a bit quirky and looks like it's, kind of ad hoc, half, baked in terms of its overall construction and features. Even the rail that you see here looks like a monolithic rail, but it is not. It's segmented right here. Getting the handguard off looks like a series of screws and things like that. You're not easily able to access the gas system. It's interesting, it's heavy, it's clunky, it's rattly, but it's still pretty darn cool. Guys, if you enjoy videos like this, please consider becoming part of our Patreon family. There is a link in the video description below. If you join our Patreon family, you'll get early access to videos like this one, and you'll have direct access to me. I answer all private communications. Also, right here on YouTube, you got that little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Mash that join button in the age of demonetization, and you can help support us here on YouTube. And last but not least, guys, please swing by and check out coppercustom.com. Thank you for 14 years of support. We'll talk to you guys soon.